Hello, and welcome to the interview that I did with Aaron Garner. Aaron Garner has his bachelor's and master's degrees in piano performance and pedagogy, and he is the founder of Piano Marvel, a piano education and learning software. So I hope you enjoy this interview. If you have any questions or comments, please comment below, and don't forget to subscribe.
The first question is for you to tell me a little bit about how Piano Marvel started, what your inspiration and purpose, kind of philosophy are in regards to that.
I was teaching at a university, class piano, and I'd have about 16 students come into the class. And it was my job, I was working on my doctorate at the time, and it was my job to teach all these piano majors how to prepare for their piano proficiency, which means they had to learn scales, chords, arpeggios, how to read music, and be prepared to enter into like a high school and maybe play some of the alto line or whatever. And so they had to pass this proficiency exam. Well, the books I was using, it just seemed like a really boring way to learn piano compared to my private teaching. And so I kind of wanted to mix the private teaching. And so I opened a studio with private teaching and hired, I think I had 15 teachers teaching for me. And I started looking at some different software, and one of them was Music Ace. And they had this little rhythmic thing that you could tap to learn rhythm. I thought that would be great because I spent a lot of time teaching rhythm for students. And then I also liked the CD accompaniments that were coming out for lesson books. And then I thought, well, what if you could mix those two together and you could have an accompaniment and a book, and so your lessons could actually be automated, and it would give you feedback and show you which notes you got right and which ones you got wrong, where you were late. And I thought that'd be really cool. And so I started just looking into what's been done, and I think this was about 2004. So I got a quote from a company, and they said it would cost about $200,000. And I thought, well, I'm a poor grad student, so that's a dream. So I just decided, I'll let some big company do it. Well, once I finished up with my grad school stuff, I was working on my dissertation. I noticed that nobody had done it yet.
Yeah.
And so I decided I'm going to just take a look. And I got another quote, and it was 600,000. And my wife and I looked at that, and she kind of dropped her head, and I'm like, you know what? Let's just do it. She's like, where are we going to get $600,000?
It's going to get more expensive, yeah.
Yeah. So it was kind of a scary project, but I started telling some friends who had some money and they were looking to invest, and they thought it was a great idea. So we jumped in and we just started. We had no idea what we were getting into. Since then, we've spent over $7 million on the project. Wow. And so it's been a dream. But my whole philosophy in teaching was just always look for ways to improve teaching. And so that was kind of the beginnings of Piano Marvel.
That's amazing. Well, how important or effective have you found since you started Piano Marvel to be in the group private lesson setting?
In the group session, I find it impossible to go back to not using it. I remember one of my main problems when I was teaching class piano was students would learn at a different rate. And so I was trying to keep them all in a similar range so that I could manage a whole classroom of 16 people. And I found some of them were bored and some of them just could not keep up. And I'm just like, sorry, I've got to go at this pace because we don't want to lose everybody, and we don't want to, bore the rest of the students. So I found when I started studying, I actually taught for 10 years at a public school where I taught every single kid in the elementary school to play the piano. The parents were shocked because they didn't realize their kids were actually learning to play piano. But I found that differentiated learning was a big push there, where students can learn at their own rate. And so what we've developed with Piano Marvel is a way for students to move at their own pace, and they could go as slow as they need to or as fast as they want to. And you as the teacher are then free to walk around and help students wherever they are. And it's almost like I had 16 helpers with me in the classroom, and I was the master teacher, so I could go around and teach the concepts where I could see, they had wrong fingering, or I could show them how to pull a phrase and make it sound magical. So as far as that, the differentiated learning is the key. If you can move at your own pace, you can manage. I was teaching, I think, 30 students at a time easily.
Wow. Yeah, I remember at BYU when I was getting my master's degree in piano performance, they had Piano Marvel, and it was one of the first years that they implemented it in their group settings. It made everything so much easier. It was fun for the students. And like you said, it was really kind of took at their own pace and their own tempo, and so that they could really go independently with some sort of personal instruction from the program. So that's really amazing, because then I went to the U. I'm at the U getting my DMA, and for the group piano classes, they don't have any sort of software or anything to kind of unify everyone. So it's really, really hard to cater to every single student's needs. I was running around to each student just to see how they were doing individually. And so with Piano Marvel, it's really much a more efficient way to measure their progress. So I agree with everything that you said about that.
I could summarize it as freedom.
Yes.
It gives you freedom to teach instead of running around just trying to catch everything.
Amazing. Okay, so my third question, technology can be really intimidating for private teachers, and me included. I mean, I think I consider myself pretty tech savvy, but when it comes to like incorporating technology into private teaching, it becomes really intimidating. So what are the steps that private teachers like me can start taking in order to incorporate technology, better make their studio efficient? And
yeah, that's actually a really good question. I just recently got back from NCKP, that's in Chicago, and read a really cool quote. It asked, "Are you preparing your students for their future or for your past?" And I thought about that, and I thought it's true that we were taught a certain way, and we see that the system worked. It got me to where I am. But the future is changing so rapidly, it's hard for anybody to know where it's going. It used to be that you could take a course on how to learn Excel, and that's how we used to teach. Now, you don't do that. If a student needs to know how to use a program, they go YouTube it. They say, how do I do this? How do I do that? And they just learn it instantly. So you have to learn how to learn. And so if you're a teacher stuck in this, and I feel like we're at a verge here, we're about to experience an innovation in pedagogy, in piano pedagogy, that we've never experienced. It's almost like there's going to be a line drawn, like before and after. Like this is BC and this is after that. So I think we're going to see such an innovation in piano pedagogy, and it's all going to be focused around the technological tools that are now being developed and that will be developed in the near future. As a piano teacher, it almost makes you want to just throw your hands up and say, please, retirement, come faster so I don't have to deal with it. But on the other hand, if you can delve in and learn to enjoy the process of change, you're in for a ride. And it's going to be a great thing to be a piano teacher, teaching in this new era. But I would take it slow. Don't try to change everything you have overnight, because it could be frustrating, and it's hard to see outside the box. It's hard to look outside the box and see what's happening. You almost have to just take it and step into the darkness and discover what's there, and just start innovating and doing it, but do it at a slow pace, but consistent. Every week, do something new with your students, and think of this as your education. I am educating myself how to utilize technology. I'm going to try this. I'm going to try that. I'm going to, this one failed, but this was a great success. And so you keep the things that are success, and you just keep adding to it. And I think that is the ticket. Don't try to throw away the baby with the bathwater, as they say. There's so many good things that we've already learned that work really well. We just need to add to it some of the things that are coming up, and don't get lax. Some people just think I've got it figured out. And I'm successful. I'm the most successful one in my area. And then you could turn around 5 years later and find you've lost it because everyone else just passed you.
Yeah. Well, I think you make a really, really interesting point, and I've totally felt what you have been describing as kind of this line in the piano pedagogy world. It's really pushing, I mean, our society is really pushing towards that technology and how to incorporate it into our lives, because everything has so far become more efficient and better, and people can gain access more to technology. I guess there are two kind of trains of thought with this right now. I mean, you see the very polarized teachers who are traditional, and they're so scared of technology. And I think because they're scared, they really fight against it, and they really, devalue it. And so I'm trying to find the gap and the bridge that can, that we can find, between the piano teachers that are from this train of thought and then piano teachers that are willing to try new things. And I think that's a really interesting thing that we'll be able to see in the future. So to summarize what your advice is for teachers, just take baby steps, it sounds like, and then not totally let go of your previous methods, but to slowly add on to it with maybe Piano Marvel or, different software is what you're saying.
Yeah. Can I tell you an interesting story?
Sure, yeah.
People sometimes look at me as this technological guru, but it was not that way. I was very, very traditional, a very traditional teacher. And I remember it was shortly after I got married. They tried to get me to use something called email. And I thought that was the stupidest thing on the planet. And I thought, why would I ever want to send an email to somebody when I could just write a letter, put a stamp on it, put it in the mailbox, and I'm done?
Yeah.
I don't have to figure out passwords and this and that, learn this or that. The system worked, and I just could not see the value of email. Now, people who are younger will look at that and say, well, that's a stupid thing to think. But what they don't see is that nobody else had email. So you couldn't just email anybody. You could maybe email a couple people who had it. And so it was trying to see what had not been invented that was about to be invented and change our world. Now I can't see how I could operate smoothly without email. Then, so you'd think I'd get the picture, right? But no, when texting came around, my wife said, hey, you should learn how to text. I thought, why would I ever learn how to text? These people are sending me texts, and I'm getting kind of impatient and upset that this process. And I watch other people text, and they'd sit and carry on a 10-minute conversation texting with their little thumbs out there. And I'm like, why don't you just pick up the phone and reduce that 10-minute conversation to 30 seconds, just talk on the phone? And I just didn't see the value of it. And I didn't see that it would ever impact my life. Finally, I decided to text, and pretty soon I was thinking, you know what, in the middle of a meeting, I can send a message and nobody will know it. And so it would kind of revolutionize how we communicate.
Yeah.
And, if they didn't pick up now, they could do it later. So it wasn't like a phone call. But my mindset was such that I always got angry. Like, why is the world changing on me? Why do I have to learn this? I already spent so much time, invested so much time learning this other way. And one day I just decided, you know what? I'm done being mad. I'm going to just try to get ahead. And so I picked up Google Docs when it was very new, and I started going through it, and it was something new and different, and other teachers weren't doing it. Nobody was doing it until, a few years later, when other people you'd start hearing more and more and more about it, and they would come to me and say, show me how to do this. I kind of felt empowered. Like I put myself out there, started learning something new ahead of the curve. I felt empowered, like, wow, nobody knows how to do this. I'm helping other people out. It just felt really good for the first time to be ahead of the curve. And to this day, I try to look for new things that help me learn. And, some things are just, you have to spend some time doing that. Yeah. But it's changed how I feel.
That's amazing. I think the mentality and your mindset is so essential with the way the world works right now. I have two last questions. As a pianist and as a teacher who wants to give like the best quality in her teaching and using real piano instruments, what is a feature of piano? Is Piano Marble able to be, I guess, programmed into, a traditional instrument like the one behind me? And then if so, what are maybe the steps that I would take as, a piano teacher right now?
There are actually a lot of ways. Let me back up just a little bit
Okay.
and talk about why you'd want to do it before you actually set it up.
Okay.
I once approached a teacher. She had sent some students to Juilliard, and I told her, and I promised her, your students will learn 4 to 5 times faster if they use the minced slicing that we put together in Piano Marble. What it does is it takes a song and it breaks it up into learning segments. You have to practice slow, medium, and fast, just the first 4 measures with the right hand alone, then the left hand, and then you put that together. And I told her, if you can get a student to use that effectively, it's 4 to 5 times faster. Well, about 3 years later, I came back to her and I said, do you remember when I said, I gave you that promise? I said, have you found that to be true? And she said, actually, I found that they've learned 8 to 10 times faster.
Wow.
And so I thought, you know what? It is a phenomenal tool. Can you use it on an acoustic piano? I use it on this grand piano. You can see it's equipped with what's called a piano scan, PNOSCAN, and that just basically it's a set of laser lights under the key.
Okay. Yeah.
Those are really cool. I have also purchased one above the key that you can put on a device above the key, and that would digitize your acoustic piano as well. We are also inventing a microphone assessment, so you can actually just do it right through your microphone on your tablet. We're also going to be doing it on a cell phone, so you can just put your cell phone up there and run Piano Marble through your cell phone. But that all takes time. I don't know when those will be out. But for the short term, it's worth getting a digital piano in your studio. It really is. I have in my studio, I have 6 stations, so I can teach 6 students at a time, and they learn so much faster than when I was just trying to teach them one-on-one, spoon feeding them notes and that. It's just so effective. So get a digital piano. If your students don't have a digital piano, you can get a little keyboard for about $100 and just plug it into their device. It's very, very worth that 8 to 10 times faster learning songs. Think about that investment of time.
Yeah. I guess the only thing with teachers now is that that's an additional cost, right? I've heard of the lasers, and that's several $1,000s, but like you said, it's worth the investment if you can really market it and then apply it to your studio. So it's really
and
great.
A lot of times just for teachers, I don't even use my grand piano that often for my lessons. I use it to polish pieces and to prepare for recitals. But for learning their music, I always use the lab and the digital because I can work with a bunch of students at a time, or they could put headphones on, and I haven't found any problem transitioning to the touch of a digital or a grand piano.
Yeah, because that's the one thing where teachers get really scared is when they don't feel like their students are getting the same touch and the same tone. So that's a really interesting perspective. And,
I was a traditional teacher, same thing. I had a student who had a little keyboard, and I kept trying to tell her, you have to get a piano. You have too much potential. And she just didn't. I put her in a competition, and she won the thing. She doesn't even own a piano.
I think it just is totally a perspective and having more of an open mind that teachers are going to have this most struggle with right now. So I guess the last question for you is, what advice do you have for private teachers? And you answered that a little bit, but in general, for musicians today who are up and coming, what advice do you have for those people?
I would say, don't be like me. Don't be so stubborn and think that the world's not going to change. Get ahead of the curve and invest in your future. It feels so good to get
Yeah.
ahead and develop your skills and your knowledge of technology.
That's amazing. So thank you for the time that you spent answering my questions today.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.